Good morning. Today we are multiplying integers. In order to do this, we have a different set of rules from adding and subtracting. So remember, for adding and subtracting, we said same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Well, for multiplying and dividing, we have these rules here. So I like to think of these as happy and grumpy people. If we are multiplying or finding the product of two numbers with the same sign, the answer is positive because two happy people get along. Here's a happy, multiplied by happy is going to be a happy or a positive answer. But if we have two grumpy people, grumpy person, these are our sad faces. Two grumpy people will also get along. Your answer will be positive. They're in the same boat. Two grumpy people get along. Or think two negatives multiply to make a positive. But if you have one person that's sad and one person that's happy, they're not going to get along. Your answer is going to be negative. It's not going to work. Same thing here, other way around, negative and positive, they also won't get along. The answer will be negative. And then last down here it says the product, or multiplying 0 times any non-zero number, is just 0. So 0 times anything is just 0. So first, I'm just going to look at our rules and decide, is our answer going to be negative, positive, or 0? Well, this one, multiplied by 0, our answer is just going to be 0. This one, we have a sad person and a happy person. Our answer is going to be not a positive, but a negative. They're not going to get along. Here, a sad person and another sad person, they get along, so your answer is really positive. And then here, a happy person and a sad person, they're not going to get along. My answer is negative. One thing you might be wondering down here is, why are there parentheses? In the past, we've written like 6 times 5 with a multiplication symbol with an x. But now that x in algebra is going to mean something else, not multiply. So instead of using an x, we use either a dot, 6 times 5 like that, a little star, 6 times, like 3 lines, 6 times 5, or just put them together, 6 times 5. If two things are touching, that means it's multiplied. So we're going to multiply, and you should have gotten, or you should get, a multiplication table that looks like this. There's also one on slide 2. So we're going to use this to multiply. You're going to find the first number up here, and the second number on this side. Okay? So let's look at our first one. 1 times 6, you might know this one in your head. Here's 1. Here's 6. If we follow them to where they meet, 1 times 6 is just 6. Oops, other way. 6. So our answer is a negative 6 because they didn't get along. Here, 8 times 2, again, you might know this one in your head, but 2 times 8 is going to give me 16. So our answer is a positive 16. And then last here, 4 times negative 10. We already know it's negative, so 4 times 10. Here's 4 times 10 is 40. So our answer is negative 40 because they don't get along. So let's flip over to slide 3 now. We're going to do the same thing. Two negatives here, they get along. Our answer is going to be positive. So let's find 4 times 12. Let me erase some of these. 4 times 12, well, here's 12. So our answer is 48. So our answer is a positive 48. This one, 2 times 14, they're all positive, so our answer is still going to be positive. 2 times 14, here's 2, 13, and 14, right there is 28. Oops, 28. But now if we have 3 numbers, we are going to just multiply them starting with only 2 of them. Because on a multiplication table, there aren't 3 sides. You only can multiply 2 numbers at a time. So first, grumpy and happy, they get along. Oh, sorry, they don't get along. So our answer is going to be negative. 3 times 6, well, 3 times 6 is going to give us, oops, right there, 18. So we have negative 18. but then it's multiplied by a negative 12. I just brought this part down. So negative 18 times negative 12, they're both grumpy, they're going to get along. 18 times 12, that's a tricky one. Here's 18, here's 12 again. 18. Our answer should be 216. So remember, you can't do all three. Start with the first two, then once you find the answer to those two, then multiply the next one. Here's three more again. Looking at just the first two, sad and sad, they don't get along. So, but they do get along. I'm confusing myself. They get along because they're sad together. So our answer is going to be positive. Two negatives multiply to make a positive. 2 times 7, well, some of you might know this one in your head. 2 times 7 is 14. If you want to find it on here, here's 7, here's 2. It is, oops, right there, 14. So we have 14 multiplied by a negative 8. Here we have happy and grumpy. They don't get along. Our answer is going to be negative. So 14 times 8. Here's 14. Here's 8. Oops, I went too far here. So our answer should be 112. So negative 112. Right, on to the next slide. A couple more. This one's a little bit tricky, so stay with me on this one. It says Mariah has a balance of $520 in her checking account. If it's a balance, that means that she has money in her checking account, so she has $520. She writes 3 checks, each for $120 from the account. If you're writing 3 different people checks, that money is going out of your bank account, so it's subtracting. So we're subtracting 3 checks that are each $120, so 3 times 120. And then we are also going to deposit or add money, put money in. Deposit would be adding, withdrawal would be subtracting. So we're going to add 2 paychecks that are each $240. So this is just going back to adding and subtracting, as well as some multiplying here. We have to do our multiplying first before we can add and subtract. So 3 times 120. I'm going to do that over here. 120 times 3. Well, 0 times 3 is 0. 2 times 3 is 6. And 1 times 3 is 3. So this is really $360. But we're subtracting it, so it's a negative. A negative times a positive is a negative. So we have 520, just bringing that down. And then we're going to add 2 times 240. So 240 times 2. Well, 0 times 2 is 0. 4 times 2 is 8. And 2 times 2 is 4. So plus 480. So now we're just going to go from left to right because all we have is adding and subtracting. Here's a positive and a negative, so we're subtracting. 520 minus 360. 0 minus 0 is 0. 2 minus 6 we can't do, so I'm going to borrow. Make this a 4. So 12 minus 6 is 6. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So this gives us $160. There's more positive, so it's positive. And then plus 480. Just add those up. 480 plus 160. We get zeros. 6 plus 8 should give us 14. And then 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 1 more is 6. So we end up with $640. So at the end here, she started with 520, she ends with 640. She actually gained money. She got more money. Alright, next, use absolute value. Find the product. Product again just means multiplying. So first, looking at just our first two numbers, a grumpy and a grumpy, they get along, they're grumpy together, so our answer is going to be positive. And 7 times 8, you can use your multiplication table. 7 times 8 is right there, woo, too far, 56. So we have 56 times the absolute value of 4, Well, anything that goes in the shower comes out clean or positive, so it's 56 times 4. So I'm going to multiply that out. 56 times 4. 6 times 4 is 24. 5 times 4 is 20, but we have 2 more, so it's 22. So our answer is 224. Next here, this is absolute value. Anything that goes in comes out clean or positive, 14. So we have 14 times 3. Let's find that. Here's 14. Going down to 3, we have 42. So our answer right there is 42. They're all positives. Then we have slide 5. Here, these are actually the same rules as for dividing as we had for multiplying. So same thing here. If you're dividing two numbers that are both happy, it's going to stay happy. If you're dividing two numbers that are both negative, if they also are going to get along, it's going to be a positive. Again, quotient just here means we're dividing. But if we have one happy and one sad, a positive and a negative, they're not going to get along. And then 0 divided by anything is going to give us 0, and we'll talk more about that in a second. So without these, actually solving these, we have a happy and a grumpy. They don't get along, so your answer is going to be negative. But these two, a grumpy and another grumpy, they get along, so your answer is going to be a positive. Now this is where you need to pay attention, because we can actually divide using our multiplication table. So first, this one, I already wrote it on the next slide here, but you don't have a next slide. Just look at 51 divided by negative 3. What we're going to do right here, we're going to look for this 3 first, find 3 on the top somewhere, and follow it until you get to 51. 51 is way down here. Once you find the number, look to the left, and our answer is 17. So our answer is a negative 17 because they didn't get along. So right there, negative 17. Same thing here, we're going to look for 8 first and follow it to 96. Here's 8, follow it to 96, right there. Look to the left, our answer is 12. So a positive 12. Now the last few problems that we have in the last slide are all division. So if you want to try these on your own and then check with me, you can. Be careful about these two that I am starring. I'll talk about those in a minute. Alright, let's get to solving. So when we divide, just like we did before, we need to decide, is this going to be negative or positive? And then look for the bottom number and follow it to the top number. These don't get along, so our answer is going to be negative. So find 9, follow it to 36. Our answer is 4. So negative 4. Then over here, they don't get along. Our answer is going to be negative. This one you probably know in your head. 14 divided by 2 is going to be negative 7. If not, find 2 and follow it to 14. This one, these get along. Our answer is going to be positive. They're both grumpy. So find 8, follow it to 40. Right there, our answer is 5. So a positive 5. And then find 16, follow it to 96. Again, both grumpy, so they get along. Our answer is positive. So 16, I already did this one here. Follow to 96. Our answer is 6. I'm going to skip this one and this one for a second. Let's do these last two that are normal. Find 14, follow it to 126. Here's 14. 126 is right there. So our answer is 9. And then the last one here, this is going to be a negative. They don't get along. Find 19. Follow it to 95. Our answer right there is 5. Negative 5. So these last two, we need to look at a poster on the wall. One says okay, and one says no. If it's okay, your answer is just 0, but if it's no, your answer is undefined. It's not possible. So this one, 0's on the top, that's okay. Your answer is just 0. But this one, 0's in the bottom, it's not okay, it's undefined. You can write UND.